G'day ladies and gentlemen, Duckville here. Welcome to a StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm replay cast that I've got for you today. Is a bit of a long one, as I'm sure you can see in the YouTube timeline there. Yeah, this is a bit of a long one, but it is a bit of fun, at least for quite a while, and then it sort of slows down a little bit, but then it gets a little bit hyped up towards the end. Let's introduce our players up at the top left-hand side of Star Station Tournament Edition. It is our Red Zerg player, Balanced. We'll see how balanced he is here today. No jokes about Colossi toppling off cliffs because they're imbalanced or anything like that, because I had enough of those while I was streaming last night. Oh dears, that was quite hilarious. But anyway, down the bottom right hand side as our blue Terran player here, representing the sea creatures of the world, it is TheWalrus. And well, I mean, it's a walrus. That's pretty cool. Walruses are pretty awesome. I mean, they're big sea mammals, but they go on land. I guess that's all I've got, guys. I don't really know. I'm kind of tired, but you know, I thought we'll push through. We'll do some more casts today, so I can upload them as soon as I can, because it is the weekend. It is 29th of November. It's Friday the 29th, and yeah, it's actually like DreamHack IM weekend and all the things. There's CSGO, there's Dota, there's SC2, there's SC2 at IEM, there's all sorts of things at IEM, and man, I stayed up late to watch as much of DreamHack as I could, but anyway, thought I'd push on. We'll do some casts, so I've got some stuff for you guys to catch once you finish up with your own weekend of esports that is going on. Hopefully everyone is able to catch something that was pretty cool. Of course, make sure if you are watching the esports across the weekend, feel free to post over on my Facebook page, facebook.com/duckfield.casting. If you find some, interesting stuff and you know, if you think it's worth sharing, pop it over on the Facebook, and I'll try and help out by sharing it a bit further as well. Just, any sorts of interesting plays, comments that people have made, screenshots, or various sort of Photoshop pictures, that kind of stuff. Feel free to post over there. It's all a happy sharing place there over on Facebook. But anyway, let's have a look at what our players are opening up with, and then we'll talk about this map a little bit here. Balance has got his hatchery already on the way, just about to complete, of course. Spawning pool and the gas are also here as well, so nothing too fancy coming out from Balanced here today. We'll see him get his speed reasonably quickly, just so that he can deal with any possible Reaper threats. Of course, he did get a little bit of scouting of what was going on. Unfortunately, did not get to see the either of the gases, so he wasn't completely sure about the exact plan of our sea creature, the walrus there, but cleans up the SCV. Now we'll see how far he wants to venture out on the map. Of course, normally you do want to keep these lings around the front door, because a Reaper may come across and you need to be very careful of those guys there. But in fact, he already does know that a couple of these Marines are out and scouting about on the map, and in fact it looks as if they will secure a kill on one of the Overlords. Very nicely done by the Walrus there. This is something which you rarely get to see anymore these days, and it does catch Zerg players out, is that when you open up with a couple of Marines, you can actually find those Overlords, and if you're used to the common scouting paths of Overlords right at the start of the game, then you can actually, really sort of annoy the Zerg. It doesn't necessarily just make a game over, but it can really annoy them if you actually take out one, maybe two of those Overlords, just as the game starts up. But as you can see, Balance is going to get his own little bit of retribution here, taking out two workers, arguably perhaps a little bit better than the Overlord, but now losing those lings, perhaps not, if he had have kept the lings alive, that would have been fantastic. That would have been perfect for Balance there, but he does lose them. And we will see, standard little Hellion opener here. In fact, second factory now on the way for Walrus, so I don't know why we got the reactor building here on the racks. Normally you will get a tech lab if you are going to go for some Blue Flame Hellion action, but he's decided, I don't know, I'm not actually sure just yet. I guess we'll see very soon once the factory flips over and jumps on that reactor there. But a little bit interesting. We've got a slightly different opening here from Walrus, and then of course over on Balance side of the map, everything looking pretty normal. He knows there's some Hellions out there. Ooh, in fact, definitely knows the Hellions are about because they just roasted one of those creep tumors. But this is that point, the 7-minute mark, where you do need to have a lot of lings out on the map. Normally, most players at this point will pick up a, they'll pick up a whole bunch just so they can go and kill off all of those Hellions, the initial 4 to 6 Hellions that you can kill off there. If you have, like 24 lings, something like that, you should be able to snipe them down somewhere out on the map. This is a very popular sort of, timing among Zerg players, is to remember the 7-minute mark. That's when you got to prepare for those Hellions, because that's when they will start to come out in great numbers. And what is up with this wall here from the Walrus? I'm not sure what that's all about, but normally you just see something go across this way, but he's decided that he's actually going to go up that way. It's like a little banana or something, I'm not exactly sure, but he has finished off the wall eventually there, and now does have his natural expansion here. For balance, we actually have the Bailey Nest just about to finish up. His lair is almost complete here. Wow, nice and quick on the lair, just to make sure he's got some tech coming up. His drone count is currently sitting at 41, so not too bad himself. And we can see for the Walrus, those double factories with reactors are really cranking out those Hellions there. We've now got a total of how many Hellions have we got? We got 11 Hellions now out on the map, with a couple more still in production. So he's going to send out that normal amount. I mentioned before, 6 is the normal sort of amount of Hellions that you will see at the start of a game. And he's going to head out here, just wants to check what's going on with the watchtower, make sure that that's cleared out of any of these lings. And now this is going to be a really interesting part of this game, because back at the natural base for balance, he's got a tiny little spot there. If he can perhaps plop down another Evo chamber, if he sees all these Hellions driving across the map, then he may be able to somehow find some defense against them. But it looks as if he's not going to be able in time, as the Hellions are now approaching. One queen out the front door, all of the Hellions now just coming along. There's a total of 17 out on the map right now. 1 queen goes down, 2 queen goes down, and then we will see the drone line. Is this game over right now? The roaches are going to pop out. The drones are looking to try and get away as quickly as they can. Unfortunately, lings are not the best kind of tool to use against a large contingent of those Hellions, and as we can see, the Hellions now freely make it inside the main base, and Walrus is just going to clean up everything? Is this? Oh wow, well, that was pretty cool by Balance, just bringing back a couple of those drones there. But now he's in a little bit more trouble, as the drone line is in a lot of trouble. Line him up, says the Walrus, and he does clean up almost all of the drones. Only, wow, just only the 13 left over. That is basically nothing left here for our Zerg player, and I don't know, is that it? Is that pretty much it right now? I don't know. We're going to see a counter-attack here from Imbalance. He does have the roach speed research of all done, of course, with that fast lair. And I mean, this could get some damage done, but we already have some Widow Mines out. The glory of having the double reactor Widow Mines is that, well, you can get a lot of Widow Mines out. And as we can see, we get a couple of big hits already going down there for Walrus. Meanwhile, Balance is trying to do what he can to try and get some kind of retribution here for all of those drones lost. 32 drones were lost by Balance. What he needs to do here, if you're a Zerg player and you sort of had this sort of thing happen before, you need to figure out, well, what am I going to do to try and get back into this? I need to get the drone count back up. I need to get to, 40, 50 drones very, very quickly. How am I going to do that? We're going to make sure that the Terran stays inside his main base. And as you can see, building up the Widow Mines is actually a really, really important thing here, because this means that there's no mobile units. There's no more Hellions that are coming. We've just got these Widow Mines, and these guys aren't exactly the most mobile of units. They take time to burrow, they take time to unburrow, they're relatively slow on the ground as well, and without any medevacs or anything like that to drag them along, then they are actually going to be very defensive units in this kind of context. So this does bode well for Balance. He's got some time to build up that drone count. We can see the Walrus is actually going to do something, well, a little bit interesting here. We've gone up to 2 starports with a 3rd on the way. I'm assuming we'll get some tech labs here and move into Banshees, perhaps, because, like, I mean, there's no other reason to build up 3 starports. I mean, that's probably, well, apart from going to, defensive Vikings or battle cruisers or something like that. But there's no real need to build 3 starports this early unless you're going to go to Banshees. And yeah, it looks like it will be with a couple of tech labs on the way. We can see the worker count is starting to struggle for the Walrus. He's down at 40 SCVs at the moment. A couple of mules will drop down and help out with that particular tally. This is this is an interesting point where, like, I rarely see other people do this. This is seriously just a thing that I do quite a lot if you watch me stream, is that I really like to use supply drop, like dropping it up on some of the supply depots back up in here inside the main base. Obviously, you don't want to drop it on these ones at the front, but using supply drop could be a better idea. Like, I mean, you kind of, you know, you're locked in here for a little while because of the because of all those roaches out the front. You've built very defensive units, as we said. You're not really going to get on the offensive for quite a while, but I mean, maybe using supply drop would have been a nicer idea here from the Walrus, but I mean, he finally got some Hellions out. These guys are going to drive all the way across the map and are going across the northern regions here. The Widowmines really just smashing through a lot of these roaches here, and now the roaches are going to back off for the moment. Some Banelings are being built, but the main threat back at his natural base, the Hellions are now inside. Is the Walrus going to snag some more drone kills here? It looks like the answer is yes. The drones will try and battle with the Hellions. I'm not sure how well that is going to go. A total of 52 drones have now been killed by the Walrus. He has smashed apart his opponent's economy, down to 33 drones, and this gives the Walrus a bit of space. He needs to move this across to the third base as quickly as possible to make sure that he does keep his own economy going, because of course the Zerg is eventually going to be back. He's going to be knocking on that front door again very quickly here. As you can see, Walrus has got lots of those Widowmines repaired. Some Banelings look like they are going to run through. We'd like to see some Lings soaking up the missiles, and they do soak up one of them. More Lings and Banes now starting to move through. One of the Banes does hit on the pack of the Widowmines, and it does look like, for the most part, Balance is going to get through with these Banes, and some of the Roaches now pushing forwards as well. But I mean, what else is he going to do here? There's too many Banshees up in the sky, and there's also Widowmines as well. We did see a Banshee come across to take out some of the units here at the third base as well. So the worker kill tally, of course, up at 52. There are now 4 Banshees here. Keep in mind, these have deployed, so even if there was some, I don't know, we've got Hydras now coming along here from Balance. I mean, he's not really going to be able to do too much unless he gets a couple of Overseers out. So this has been the weirdest opening I've ever seen from a Terran player. I mean, the double factory reactor Hellions is quite interesting. And then, of course, you go into the triple port Banshee. It seems a little bit like an old kind of Brood War play from back in the day. But Balanced has cleaned up the Banshees for the moment here. A pair of them are now heading up towards the top side of the map. It looks like they are going to head towards, I would assume it's going to be the natural. Yeah, he wants to come in here, get some damage done at the natural to try and slow down his opponent yet again. But now Balance does have, again, it kind of this is a weird situation for him because of the way this game is played out. He needs the Hydras to be able to deal with the Banshees, but after that, the Hydras don't actually do too much. Unless you're going for the specific 2-2 Roach Hydra timing, these guys aren't actually that useful. They just sort of sit there and they say, no Banshees at all, please. And then that's really about it. Because for the moment, the Walrus has now started to get out some tanks. He's got 1 tank out. We got a couple more Hellions on the way. More Banshees as well. A couple of extra units inside the main, and upgrades, importantly, are also coming out here, which, given that it looks like we are going to go to a mech style here from the Terran player, those upgrades are so amazingly important. You can never count out how useful having +1 weapons on your tanks is. It means they just annihilate Roaches and Lings so very, very quickly. And it means that you can really move into defensive positions really quickly. So it looks as if the big flock of Banshees is now going to move through. They are preparing to attack at this at the big group of units that is outside the natural base here. Tanks and Hellions is defending at the front. The Banshees should just head out. I mean, the Overseer was killed off. Surely they know that the Overseer is now gone, but Walrus is still just building up his production base at the moment, with the 1-1 about to finish up here for all of the mech units. Of course, that now includes the Banshees as well. Look at that, the backlash rockets now doing 13 damage, and a bit of extra ship plating there as well will mean that these Banshees will be very deadly up in the sky. And speaking of deadly, Hellions, another big round of Hellions now making their way through towards the what is quite possibly an attack on the third base, but the Lings are chasing after them. We'll see if Walrus is able to deal with this somehow. I mean, just a small shot on these. Unfortunately, they kind of get caught out with the pathing there from Walrus. There is Blue Flame finishing just in the nick of time, but unfortunately it is not perfectly timed out. And again, losing an attacking force there is really key here for Walrus. It means that, I mean, he has to come back here. He's got to... We're still waiting for this third base. Again, I'm very surprised that that has not gone up. But now it looks like he is going to push out. He is only dealing with roaches, hydras, and lings. It's not exactly the worst kind of, you know, damage-dealing force that you get to see. This burrowed ling will come out, sorry, and will be a little bit pesky. You'll have to drop down another scan to get rid of that. Unless the ravens have popped out. Actually, yeah, they have. The ravens are now out. And we are going to have the Banshees now moving forwards. The backlash rockets doing a lot of damage there. It looks like a couple... we will get one lost Banshee there, but meanwhile, behind all of this gives time for the Walrus to continue on with the production of some tanks. We've got Ravens now starting to pop out. This is starting to look like a very kind of turtley Terran play that we get to see very rarely, but it is extremely strong in this particular matchup. The old TVZ turtle kind of style here is just now coming out from the Walrus, I believe. He's set up shop on land, and he's got his big Walrus tusks, and he's about to bite into the third base, but will he be able to fend off Balance, who is now picking up a fourth base? This is what we really want to see. As a Zerg player, if you do see a Terran starting to mech like this, and they are playing really defensively with mines and tanks and weirdly some Banshees as well, you got to try and get your upgrades up as quickly as you can. You got to try and get bases up. You need the gas coming in, because the main kind of composition that you're going to be looking for to deal with mech is generally centralized around very gas-intensive units. Swarm Host, Vipers, you can add in Infestors as well, and then also moving towards Broodlords in the late game as well. So the general gist of what you want to be doing here as a Zerg player, if you're not, you know, if you're still one who's trying to learn a bit of the ropes of Zerg, what you want to be looking at here is to get your fourth base. You want to get a fifth base very quickly, as quickly as possible. Get your upgrades going, as Balance has been doing here. 2-2 on the air, the missile and the carapace is really required. Enduring Locust, all the Hydralisk upgrades are quite useful as well for the initial part of the game. And then, of course, getting those Swarm Hosts out to delay the Terran. What you want to do is you want to keep this guy back here. You want him to stay back here while, if we can have a quick look on the minimap, we want to just cover basically this entire portion with Zerg. We want creep, we want bases, all these kinds of really important things. But as you can see, this interesting style from the Walrus is going to put a little bit of an error in that kind of play, because I mean, with his Cloak Banshees, he's going to be doing a heap of damage here. He's taking out drones left, right, and center. Now 59 drone kills in total. Looks like the Spore Crawler will help to finish off this last Banshee here. But now approaching on the third base is that group of Hellions and those Banshees, and it looks like eventually these are all going to get cleaned up. But I mean, this harassment has been really strong, and it's something that I have rarely ever seen from Mech Terran players. They generally tend to just sort of sit back. We'll have a couple planetaries set up, we'll get more command center set up, turrets, all these cool things, sensor towers as well, and they just tend to play a very passive style. But Walrus has changed it up. He's doing something a little bit different here, had that amazingly aggressive start from him, and as you can see, with 57 drones, wow, we can see the balance is still barely catching up at this point. He needs to take that drone count up to like 85. We need to be mining as efficiently as possible. We can see he's got 4 in there, unfortunately for him. But he needs to be grabbing a fifth base. We need to start those Swarm Hosts coming out. You generally will want to put the Swarm Host down in a position like somewhere around here so that they can attack into both bases at the same time if possible. And then that'll make these attacks very efficient. And then, as we said, you start to move towards Infestor, Broodlord, and Viper as well as part of your late game. You're never really going to compete with things like Mutalisks because, of course, as we just saw there, point defense drones do block the Muta attacks. It lets the Vikings get into the fight. If you're really unlucky, a Hunter-Seeker missile may catch your big pack of Mutas as well, and that does not bode well for a Zerg. They cost a lot. They cost the 100 for those Mutas, and I mean, you just have to be really careful with these kinds of things. So this kind of style that we can see slowly starting to reveal itself here from the Walrus is a very, very kind of turtley style, and you just have to take advantage of that. You have to take advantage of the quickness and the mobility of the Zerg units, the cheap cost, whatever, English. You need to be able to build up bases, get the economy coming in, get those upgrades out, and then move towards the hive tech. So we can see the balance is doing part of that. I would like to see the drone count go up a bit more. 58 drones is nowhere near enough. Even if we weren't playing against mech, this is nowhere near enough. We need another, at least another 20 drones to be popping out here. And he does have a couple that have just finished up. So we've gone up to 63, which is not too bad. But these mutas need to be very careful, as we can see. They're hunting around, trying to find any juicy units that they can pick up. But the investment, the further investment into the mutas is something that I'm a little bit worried about here for balance. But he is going to attack into this third base here, targeting down those turrets as best as he can. Of course, it takes a long time for the mutas to clean up these turrets unless they are properly targeted on the various buildings. But in comes the Walrus. Is he going to be able to get some Hunter Seekers off? Drops in a couple of point defense drones and a few shots from the, I believe those are some Vikings there. No, it was a Thor, sorry. A couple of shots from those Thors does get a lot of damage on the mutas, and they are forced to back off now, as they are very, very festive colors with the red and the green there. So, this is, well, I mean, what are we doing as a Terran player, you may be asking? I mean, you know, some players do like to mech. They like to play a little bit of the slower mech like this. What do you want to do here? You want to secure your fourth base. Once your fourth is secure, set up, you normally have like 4 starports is sort of the amount that you should be able to produce off comfortably once you have all of the bases. And wow, there you go. A couple of Thor shots doing a lot of work there for the Walrus. But as I was saying, 4 starports is normally the amount that you should be able to safely produce off. I normally, personally, get 3 tech labs and then a single reactor on those specific buildings, and then you can pump out Vikings and Ravens. You use these to deal with all sorts of threats. How do the Ravens work, you say? Point defense drones will be able to block off Mutalisk shots as we have seen multiple times. They also block off Hydras, Corruptors, and along with a couple of other units as well. But more importantly, Ravens are used to deal with the Swarm Host. You may be thinking, how do I deal with Swarm Host with a unit that doesn't actually attack? Hunter Seeker missiles are amazingly useful. When these guys are burrowed, they don't have the time to move out of range of a Hunter Seeker. So you basically just drop a bunch on them. If I remember correctly, it takes 3 to kill off a Swarm Host. And you can really start wasting the Zerg's potential here, because what you're doing is you're trading minerals and gas, obviously in these initial Swarm Hosts. You're trading it for energy, because the only cost of a Raven is the initial purchase that you go out with from the starport. After that, everything they do is essentially free, because you get all of this energy back, and the only cost is a Seeker Missile. 75 energy. Used to be a lot more if in Wings of Liberty. If memory serves me right, it was 100 energy to actually cast that. So now, as you can see, we're going to have a multi-pronged attack here from Balance. He's trying to come in here on this third base, takes out a Thor, gets rid of a couple of other units as well, but unfortunately is not able to deal with the double planetary fortress here. These guys with their Ibix cannons do a huge amount of damage, 40 damage per shot, does a small splash as well, which is really unfortunate for Quantum units. But Balance is also attacking in on the left-hand side. A big pack of mines off to the edge is just sitting there very cautiously, just waiting for something to happen, but it looks as if Balance is going to get in here and has cleaned out a lot of the mineral line. He's taken out a lot of workers there. We're now down to a total of 44 STVs at this point, which it's not too bad in the context of things. Like normally at this point, a mech Terran player will be dropping a lot of their minerals into extra orbital commands, but unfortunately for the moment, the Walrus has not been able to do that. He's had to spend on getting his, making sure that some of these buildings are alive, getting enough turrets to fend off those mutas, and then also, as we can see, he's had some really solid expenditure in the Ravens. So it's good to see the Ravens, but we would like to have a couple of extra orbital commands for mule drops as well as scans, of course, as well. So let's have a look at what Balance is up to, very wisely taking an extra base down to the bottom left-hand side of the map. Also through the middle left, we do have that other base, so he is now mining a huge amount of gas, bringing in over 800 gas at a minute here, which is really, really good for Balance. He needs to bank up a lot of his minerals and his gas right now, because, as we mentioned before, this is a kind of, the Terran mech style is a very efficient style. It deals in high-powered, very hard-hitting units, the tanks, the Thors, and then you have things like the Ravens, which have no real cost when it comes to combat, because of the cost of the energy there, as being as their only real kind of source of their issues here. But interestingly, these Banshees that did come out earlier here from the Walrus are now serving a really nice purpose here, coming across to deal with some of the swarm hosts. They do take out a couple, but are forced to retreat as the mutas and a couple of overseers now come along. But we can see the makeup of balanced, as I sort of misclicked completely there, the makeup of Balanced's army is now starting to really form into the good composition that you want, consisting of a swarm host, the Vipers, and I'm sure soon enough we'll probably start to see some Corruptors once he loses some of these mutas. So it's starting to shape up quite nicely, but we do need to start to head towards the high-level hive tech. We need a greater spire. We need some upgrades coming out for the air units as well. They do have +2 on their attacks, but we need to continue it on. There's no reason not to be upgrading things at this point as a Zerg player. He's got the huge bank of both minerals and gas. Moving around the swarm post to try and get damage done is always quite nice and handsome. As we can see, these locusts just shooting them off, being very active with those swarm hosts is always very important. But you still need to be upgrading back at home. And we will get +3 to carapace on the way. Doesn't help too much with the composition that we're going for. I mean, it helps the Locust tank a tiny bit more, but it's not really a huge issue. There's the Hunter Seekers popping out here from the Walrus. He does drop it out on some swarm hosts that are actually unburrowed, so they are able to escape, not to mention they're on creeps, so they're actually easily able to get out of the range. But when they're burrowed, they are not able to get out of there unless you... Wow, that's... I really like that he's been very active with this and he's moving forwards. Unfortunately, one of those swarm hosts is actually caught in the wave that was sent out there and as you can see, almost getting blasted apart, but the tanks have done some friendly fire here and they have taken out a lot of the mines, which is good for Walrus in a way because it leaves him a bit of room for these big guys. The battle cruisers are now starting to hit the field. Once they move out, this is the end composition that you're wanting here as a Terran. Raven, Viking, and BC. Once you've got that, it actually starts to get a bit ridiculous for a Zerg to try and kill you. I'm not complaining about balance, I'm just saying it's very, very hard for a Zerg to try and kill off this kind of army. Unless you have the Terran screwing up, or if the Zerg gets some wonderful control. Like, it's just so hard to do this kind of composition. But as you can see, Balance does have a couple of Vipers out. I would love to see him crank out a few more drones. We're still sitting at 66, which I feel is kind of a little bit of a low amount, but also what we can use some extra drones for is for starting to zone out some of the various units here. Now, with a couple of blinding clouds, the Locusts are able to go to work on the planetary fortress. In fact, he may be able to finish it off, and he does. Really nicely done. Those blinding clouds are beautiful. We just saw them on top of the tanks and on top of the planetary fortress there. Really nicely done by our Zerg player Balance there. So he has gotten a lot of work done here down at the 4th base of his Terran opponent, but now the battle cruisers have started to come out. Our upgrades are currently sitting at 3-3, which of course means these battle cruisers are so amazingly efficient right now. And speaking of which, Banshees, again, raining down thunder on top of one of the bases here for Balance. He's going to lose some of the drones that are here. It looks as if the Squall Crawler may have the last laugh. No, actually. Thought he was going to get that Banshee, but the mutas certainly will have the last laugh as they come through cleaning up those Banshees, and that will be it for that harassment for now. But as you can see, Corruptors are starting to come out. We still don't have... Oh, okay, yeah, we do. We do have a Greater Spire. We do need some more upgrades coming out here for Balance, but other than that, I feel like he's doing okay. He's in a pretty comfortable position. But one thing, as I was going to say before, that would be really nice to have some static defense setups here. You want to be able to protect your Swarm Host from the Ravens. How do you do that? You need to have a lot of Spore Crawlers, because otherwise stuff like this is going to happen. Ravens are going to just waltz their way through. They'll drop down point defense drones to protect themselves, and then of course unleash a couple of Hunter Seeker missiles, and if you're not careful, big packs of units will go down. So this is starting to become the very ugly sort of portion of a mech TVZ here for our Zerg player Balance. He needs to be able to set up some static D, and in fact he has already started that. Very nicely done. Back here though, I think he will need to sort of move it forward if he wants to take advantage here. But it's like this is what you do as a mech Terran player. Like the Walrus, you just sort of slowly but surely lumbering forwards, literally like a giant tortoise from the Galapagos Islands or something like that. You just need to be very slow, very methodical, very careful with these Ravens, and you know, just on target with what you're doing, making sure you're throwing down the point defense drones, throw down the Hunter Seekers when you've got the space and the time to do it, because eventually you can really wear down a Zerg player. And this is, as you can see here, the Ravens, the way they're grouping up, that is part of the reason why I mentioned dropping in a couple of infestors. If you can fungal growth the Ravens down, there is a huge investment in this. Look at all of these Ravens that are here. Like, if you're trying to kill off battle cruisers is a pretty tough task. These guys have a bajillion armor, 6 armor, it's close to a bajillion. They've also got 550 health, can be repaired by SCVs and mules, of course. Oh wow, the Hunter Seeker is actually doing a little bit of damage there, but they take a long time to die. Even if you have a bunch of Corruptors, they take a long time to die here. But as you can see, the Ravens, very, very flimsy kind of units. They've got some armor, which is not too bad, a lot lower on the health there, but they also clump up a ridiculous amount. And if you can get a couple of good fungals off and then are able to knock down all the Ravens, this just, in the blink of an eye, just turns into the Zerg's favor. So you have to be very careful with that kind of thing as a Terran player as well, but you want to be looking for that kind of thing as the Zerg. So we will see Walrus be very careful about those kinds of things. The Corruptors have now come out onto the map in large numbers. We've got a total of 24 Corruptors. There are 21 Swarm Hosts. There are still 13 Mutalisks out on the map. There are even 2 Zerglings out, being very pesky. One of them here, and the other one also up to the top side as well. But as you can see, the game has turned to a really slow point here, where the Terran is trying to get battle cruisers out. He's actually struggling at this point to get the battle cruisers out because he's slightly supply blocked. And now, part of the way you can deal with that is to try and drop off some of these workers. He's got 36 workers at the moment. You probably don't want to go too much lower than that. That's the point where you start to lose some of your mining efficiency. But what you can do is start to move out. Maybe get rid of some of these tanks. You can possibly get rid of maybe 2 of these tanks. Are there any... What else has he got out on the map? We've still got a Hellbat out. We don't really need this. But we do need, of course, a couple of Thors is quite nice to have. The Vikings, Battle Cruisers, of course, and then the 17 Rangers, which make up a huge mixture of what's going on here. So it has gotten to that sort of stale point of the game right now. I'm just a tiny bit worried for Balanced. He has not gotten this base up and running, has not attempted to take this base over to the side, and as we said right at the start of the game, when you're dealing with a mech Terran, what you want to be doing as a Zerg, as I drew it on the minimap again, you want to make like all of this your base. Because once you have the base here, the base, all of these bases up and running, what is it, 7 bases in total? 6, I should say. That's actually really good. That puts you in a really solid position. So, you know, that's kind of why I'm a little bit worried here for Balance. But here, the rest of what he is doing is working out really nicely. Swarm Post trying to hold his opponent back. We've got the Corruptors to deal with some of the units in the air. Even a few Vipers to throw out a couple of abducts. If you can abduct Ravens or Battle Cruisers and make them pay for it, then that is always really, really good. And then, of course, with the static defense. The static defense slowly starting to move forwards. Maybe setting up shop around here somewhere would be really, really good. Or perhaps even over here. Kind of depends where you want to sort of act into. But he does need to just this few little tweaks here to make sure that this kind of style is going to work out for him here. But as I said, when the battle cruiser count starts to rise, the Ravens start to rise up as well. This is where Terran Mech becomes a really, really big issue to deal with. As you can see, the air-to-surface laser batteries there doing 11 damage. And of course the air version of it as well is also doing 9 damage. So this is a troublesome part here for our Zerg play. He needs to be very careful, needs to watch out for the Hunter Seekers as well as the Yamato cannon. Firing down there is the battle cruiser fleet of the Walrus being protected by the myriad of point defense drones here, stopping all the damage coming in from the Spore Crawlers, stopping all the damage from the Corruptors as well. They do throw out some corruptions, do always like to see that. Where are the Hunter Seeker missiles here from Balance? From Walrus. He does have a couple in there, but he decides to lay down a few more point defense drones instead. And like, this is the part of Terran Mech where it really starts to take control, is that all of these units are really based on energy. And those are the units that are getting the work done for you, whether these Ravens or all the Yamato cannons from the battle cruisers as well. And while we did lose a few battle cruisers here, Balanced didn't exactly have the best of fights. He lost a few of his own units. We've got to build another 13 Corruptors before he can get back into this fight. And he just needs to be very careful. Whereas for the Walrus, just got to bide a little bit of time, get all those the Ravens back some of their energy. So he is going to just wait a second here, get some more energy for some more point defense drones, and then perhaps look to move out there again. One thing that I would also love to have here from Balance is get rid of these mutas. They do nothing. They will do absolutely nothing from this point on. They get annihilated by Hunter Seekers. Battle Cruisers will also tear them up, and even a few Vikings at this point with 3-3 are going to do a lot of damage to those mutas, and they're just wasted resources here. Oh, sorry, supply at this point. And that could go into either, you know, building up some more Corruptors, getting some more Broodlords, or something else. Perhaps a couple of Infestors would be nice to see out here, as I mentioned before, but he's gonna leave those be for the moment. Vipers still roaming around, trying to get some energy up. A couple more Corruptors will join the rest of the flock, and there go those mutas. Okay, cool. Soaking up some of the Widow Mines there. Wow, that was a little bit of a dastardly situation, but now Walrus has started to take a 5th base. If this goes up, and if this stays up, the Terran can win. Not even considering anything else about the Zerg. When you're playing mech, the Terran can win at that point. Wow, nice snipes there from Balance, so he takes out 2 of the battle cruisers. The point defense drones finally go down. Still no signs of Hunter Seekers here from the Walrus. In fact, he's going to move forwards right now, maybe. No, doesn't decide to drop any out. You need to, just for the Terrans out there, just a really quick tip, you need to be very careful about dropping down the Hunter Seekers. You need to do it when the Corruptors are sort of committed to the battle. You can see when they really commit to a battle, when they start to sort of battle in your territory. They want to fight around here and try and take out a lot of the battle cruisers and that kind of stuff. That's when you can throw out the Hunter Seekers. If you just try and, if the Zerg is dancing around like this, I probably wouldn't really advise it, which is why we're not really seeing any Hunter Seekers come out from the Walrus just at this present time. So we can see now that Balance has taken the rest of the map right now. He's got all of these bases all set up quite nicely. A couple of Hunter Seekers were looking to fly out, but they did not get far enough. And now, wonderful abducts there from Balance, taking out 1 of the battle cruisers. Really nicely done. The battle cruiser count is now down to a total of just the 4, which is not a huge amount, but he can build a couple more if he can keep it around the sort of 6 to 7 mark. That's the kind of numbers that you really want to see as a mech Terran there. So he is going to crank out a couple more battle cruisers. 2 more Thors are also on the way. Interesting to see the addition of the Thors here. Of course, they do get their splash damage against all of these the clumped up Corruptors. Look at that, like if a Hunter Seeker hits that, if a couple of Thor Javelin missiles hit that, that is a big pack of dead Corruptors at that point. And that's where the Zerg starts to really suffer. But we do have an abduct coming out, takes 2 of them, will he grab them again? Yes he does, wonderful abducts there, and takes out the 2 battle cruisers, very nicely done by Balance. He's really starting to assert quite a lot of dominance here, because the Walrus is now down to 128 supply. He's got 34 workers, is just mining off this base at a leisurely pace at the moment, and is now possibly looking to lose a couple of these planetaries here, which may be quite tactical as the game moves on. But still, we do have those mutas there. We've still got no real sign of infestors or anything like that. Back at home for Balance, we've got the +3 to carapace on the way for those air units. He's got a total of 21 drones. I don't know how I feel about that. Part of the problems, like we were talking just a short minute ago about the remax from a Zerg. If all of these Corruptors die off, you're gonna have a very hard time actually remaxing them. You can make 10 more Corruptors, pretty much, or just under that, and that's not exactly good. So losing drones right now, we're now down to 15 drones. This is really, really worrisome stuff here from Balance right now. The Walrus has been doing really well with his various little run-by attacks, and now, as you can see, a couple of good Yamatos do shoot off, take out a few of those Corruptors there. And with those Hellions doing a lot of work over here, yeah, finally, the mutas are made useful for a moment, protecting that base. But you have to wonder, what is Balance going to do when he has to remax? Because once he remaxes, well, firstly, as I said, he's not going to get a full remax because he has, like, only 1,000 gas, which in your general sort of game, it sounds like heaps, but in this sort of situation, it's actually not really much at all. And I'm just kind of worried for it, because we would love to see some extra drones just mining gas. I mean, there's no gas left over here at this base. Most of the other bases are actually mined out right now, but he needs to protect this one, and this is going to be harder and harder as the battlecruiser count starts to rise up again. We've got 2 more on the way, some more Vikings are also coming through as well, and I don't know, this is difficult to call, because like I said earlier on, if the Zerg can pull off some good moves, this kind of strategy can work out, but generally speaking, the Terran is just so hard to kill when they move up to the BC Raven Viking. And now, as you can see, a couple of Hellions have again made it across to one of the bases of Balance. He's going to lose some drones here, in fact losing every single drone as those Hellions switch over. Robots in the sky, switching over into Hellbats there, and they are going to take out, I would assume they're going to take out this hatchery. There's no real defense here. A couple of spine crawlers perhaps could move over, but they're not really going to be that helpful against the 3-3 Hellbats. So now we can see the switch up for Balance. He's grabbed 4 Broodlords. 4. I'm okay with 4. Like, the thing here is that if you can deal with the air army, that's a really big if, guys. That's like an if as big as this game has been, 57 minutes. You don't really need a huge amount of Broodlords to eventually take out the Terran, because they're only going to be building more air units. You rarely ever see a Terran switch back into, you know, siege tanks, Hellions, or even some kind of crazy switch over into bio or something like that, because that's just not going to work. But you only need a few Broodlords to be able to slowly take down these buildings, and that is it's a really good decision there by Balance to not go too far. It's sort of leaving it at that count. He's got a lot of Swarm Hosts as well, let's also keep that in mind. And now, a couple of Ravens will pop out, but will they get their point defense drones down in time? It looks like they do, so they do stay alive for the most part here. And the battlecruisers are now starting to move out. We can see the Corruptors pushing forwards. They want to get a couple of shots off here. They will take out 1, maybe 2 of the Ravens here, but Hunter Seekers are now on their way. And there they go, ripping up a huge portion of the Zerg army. And there is that Remax there from Balance. 10 Corruptors are on the way, and his gas is now gone. So this is the part where a Zerg player starts to get really frustrated in dealing with this kind of style, because the efficiency is just out of this world for this kind of army. All those Hunter Seekers, they cost him just a little bit of energy. In effect, time. That's all it costs Walrus. For our Zerg player, of course, that cost the each of those Corruptors that was killed, which was a pretty high amount, I would assume, yeah. And in fact, the resources lost tally actually shows us that they're relatively close by, but and that's like, I'm actually kind of surprised. I'll be completely honest, guys. Normally these kinds of mech versus Zerg games go like basically units lost sort of sits really low for the Terran, and the units lost for the Zerg is ridiculously high. But as you can see, Balance, as I've sort of mentioned a couple of times, he's actually done a pretty good job of sort of adapting and dealing with this style, but I mean, he's still going to have a lot of trouble trying to make this work now that he's lost a lot of his economy. He's lost all of those the Corruptors as well. Like, my brain is starting to fade after watching through Impact for so long. But now the Walrus is starting to move out. He's got Thors, he's got battlecruisers, Vikings and Ravens. He's now going to move out and slowly start to pick apart the Zerg army. And I mean, this is a part for Balance, where he needs to start killing off the bases. Kill off everything he can. Everything that's on the ground needs to die. Send the Broodlords around. You don't need the Broodlords to deal with this army, because they will die. They'll die to Hunter Seekers, they'll die to Vikings, Battlecruiser Yamato cannons, and even the Thors can be a very, very deadly force. So the Broodlords need to head off. I don't know where they're going. Alright, they're just sticking around with the Corruptors. So we would like to see Balance start to push across this way. He's got a lot of turrets to make his way through, but eventually if he can just start taking out the buildings here inside the main base, that would be wonderful for him. Meanwhile, what are we going to do? Well, I don't know. This is hard to engage into. The Ravens with their point defense, they're just making it impossible. The battlecruisers with their tankiness just also make it really hard to do. And I'll be completely honest, guys, like at this point, when the Terran has got this, this huge sort of metal army that blocks out to huge amounts of damage and defense. I do not properly know what the best way to deal with this is. As I said, some good bundles can certainly help out. Some good, we have seen some really good abducts here from Balance, but, you know, you have to snipe out battlecruisers individually. The Vikings will be there to zone them out. As you can see, he's trying to keep these Vikings sort of just in a line here to make sure that the Corruptors cannot get in range of the rest of the units, and also the Vipers in particular cannot get in range of these battlecruisers so that they can abduct them. So this is really starting to become a little bit of a death march here for Balance. He's having a hard time finding a target. Can he actually turn something up? It looks like, well, he will take out point defense drone, which is nice, I guess, and then a battlecruiser snaps that one down extremely quickly, and the battlecruiser count will keep the unit tally count up now, guys, because there's just no point having the production tab, but we'll keep the unit tally count up. 6 battlecruisers are now out for Walrus. He's got 17 Ravens. Of course, the 2 Hellbats are also out, along with 12 Vikings and 3 Thors as well. So he's got this huge army. He said, alright, it's time to start moving out, because I can slowly but surely pick you apart. Like slowly being poked by sticks. Eventually, you are going to get tortured, and eventually a hole is going to be made that cannot be returned. So Walrus is now looking to find that spot. He is going to protect the Thors on the ground with a couple of point defense drones. Very nicely done. A Viper is just looking for a steal here. Will he be able to get it? Looks like so far Mato's coming out on spine crawlers. I don't know how I feel about that. But again, what are we doing with these swarm posts? He needs to attack into his opponent's base here. There is no defense. He's probably he will probably start to realize that soon. The Broodlords also need to head out there and get some damage done, because at this point, there is nothing else they're going to do. They're not going to do anything to the rest of this army, as we said. So wisely, Walrus has taken out one of the only mining bases here for his opponent. Interestingly, keep an eye on the resources tally down at the bottom. We've got Walrus sitting on a total of 162 minerals with no gas. He's got 22 SCVs out on the field, and does have 134 supply, whereas for Balanced, he's currently sitting on a total of 1,400 minerals, but just a very small amount of gas. And in fact, that last piece of gas is going to be invested into a couple of Vipers. Where are they going to come out of? Here. I was going to say, wisely done. He needs to make sure that he does get them out of a base that isn't under siege. As we can see, Walrus is going to move towards the natural and then the main and slowly but surely take them out. But with those extra Vipers, we may see a couple of good abducts. He needs to be very careful with them and needs to make sure that they have energy constantly. You can probably just suck down these spine crawlers here. You don't actually need them at all. But it looks as if the Broodlords have finally realized, let's actually get something done, fellas, and they are going to head across to the right-hand side of the map. There is a single Viking. I don't know why there is a single Viking over here, but that guy can make this a little bit worse right now for Balance. But Balance does have enough minerals to get another hatchery up. Started one up here at the top right-hand side. We'll see if he's able to keep that up and running. Of course, he does need some gas at this point. Also needs, well, the rest of his buildings. He's now lost his spire. He's about to lose the greatest spire and the rest of the buildings that are inside the main base. Infestation pit, everything else is here. All of that tech that our Zerg player needs is all in here, and it is all about to fall down in a blaze of glory because the Thors and the battlecruisers are now just going to push their way through. Meanwhile, Broodlords have started to encroach on the main base here. Should be able to take out those turrets in due time, and then can look at taking out the production facilities. But I mean, at this point, it doesn't really matter. I mean, we've already got a floating command center down here in the sort of to the bottom left-hand side of the map right now. The swarm hosts are looking to get some more work done as well, dropping out their locusts and slowly taking out some of the buildings down here. What used to be the 4th base of the Walrus, and now, as you can see, Walrus. Eventually that hive will die down. But he's going to go after the Spire and the spawning pool, of course. Going to take them out with ease. I'm a little bit surprised he didn't use this one Viking to take out the Broodlords here. Oh well. But SCV is still just having a party around here at the empty refinery. There's not really much these guys can do except, well, they're repairing for some reason. He's trying to repair up some of these buildings. I guess that means that they last a little bit longer, but not for that long. as he slowly is losing his own buildings. But of course, the glory of the Terran player is that they can float their buildings, much like this. For some reason, it's keeping up pace with the movement of the star station as well, which is kind of freaky to consider. But now the Walrus starting, he's finished off the natural base and the main base. He's now looking for this fourth over here. He's going to move over here and take this out pretty quickly. And this will leave Balanced in a tricky situation. What am I going to do here, he says. He's got this base up, but he's not mining from it. He's got another base over here to the side, not mining from it either. Well, actually, sorry, I take that back. I'm wrong. There is one drone out on the map. The hero drone. Will he be able to bring this back here for Balanced? I mean, it's a long road ahead. Certainly could grab a couple more drones. I'm not sure why he isn't, but as you can see, Swarm Host now unleashing their Locusts, trying to get some damage done, but there's really not too much on the ground anymore for Walrus. It's got like the 3 Thors, and then that's about it. In fact, yeah, that is about it. Apart from the 14 SCVs, that is all it. But there is an Abduct, very nice. Wait, no, where's the other Abduct? Come on, he's gonna get it out. Looks like no. We will have a Viper die though. That is not worth a trade of nothing at all. Which means that, well, I mean, I'm gonna sort of call this one now because, like as I said before, I just feel this kind of army is absolutely unstoppable at this point. You can sort of make the argument that you shouldn't have let this get to this stage, but I mean, come on, surely there should be some way to deal with this. But I mean, as we said, Infestors could help out with fungal growth. You can get other sorts of things as well, like maybe an earlier switch into Broodlords would have been good as well. An earlier attack by these Broodlords could have been quite nice, and not to mention the Swarm Host could have also gotten some earlier work done. But well, Balance is going to try and make his last stand. Over here at the bottom left-hand side of the map, there is a Walrus Command Center just off to the side. Has not actually seen that just yet, but now he's slowly starting to lose some of his buildings in his main. The three Broodlords have got quite a few kills amongst them as they slowly tear apart all of those buildings. But the mech army, the big army of metal, is now just roaming around. Not exactly sure what he's waiting for right now. Probably just some more energy. I mean, some of these Ravens aren't full just yet. Gonna fill her up. Tank's full. Just gotta wait for that to finish up, and then he'll probably start moving towards his opponent's bases. And he does know about this one, but doesn't know about the one down in the bottom left. But I mean, there's nowhere else to go. Is he gonna? Okay, cool. He's going to send across a couple of SCVs. I think it'd be really cool if he could actually just build... he can't actually, he's got no middle. If he could perhaps just sit an SCV here to keep an eye on this base, and maybe drop down this Viking to keep an eye on this one, or possibly even use one of the SCVs to do it. But you can use, just keep an eye on these extra bases, just to make sure that your opponent does not actually somehow sneak a base, and perhaps, somehow, try and get an army back together. But I mean, at this point, it's all, as I said, I would say this is all done and dusted here for Balance. It's got so many battle cruisers, there are a bunch of Thors, there are Vikings and Ravens still up in the air that he needs to deal with, and it is just going to be the toughest kind of challenge here. I'm not even sure Jadon could do something like this at this point, because this kind of army is just not enough to compete with it. But there are some small crawlers out. Why is he Yamatoing spine crawlers? It boggles my mind right now. But the Walrus has now cleaned out this base. We've got a couple of extractors left over. That is around about here. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the map, are there any more buildings out here? Nope. All of the spore crawlers have now moved to this base here. The final stand, as I said. A couple of Ravens will get pulled out, sniped out. Or is he going to get the shot off? No, it doesn't get the shot off on that Raven, which is really, really low at this point. And yeah, now Walrus knows this base is over here. Just needs to just sort of slowly take this apart. A couple of Yamato cannon shots. They do excellent damage to these spores, as you can see. Viper's looking for an abduct, does get one, does he get the second off to keep it in range? Doesn't even need it. The Corruptors go to town and smash down that battlecruiser. We're now down to 5 against the 30 Corruptors, the 13 Swarm Hosts, which are effectively useless at this point. we do have, of course, the extra 2 Vipers that are there as well. There's a couple of course, a small blunder earlier on was when he lost a couple of those Vipers. I feel like they're such important units at this stage of the game. If you are going to win a late game matchup, you need to win with energy. This is a core thing of StarCraft. It's been around for a very long time, because eventually the map starts to look like this, with no minerals, no gas, nothing like that. And as we said, as I've ranted on time and time again, the energy is really key here. It's the key part of winning this kind of late game situation, and Walrus, he's got a huge advantage. He has so much energy at his disposal with the 16 Ravens that he has out. Of course, he does have 4 battle cruisers with their Yamato as well. And wow, he actually lands the CC here and does get a quick little scan of what's going on. Let's double check. He says, "Hey, how many spore crawlers are here? How many of those corruptors are still around?" And as we can see, it's still quite a lot. But I mean, like, I don't know. I will actually eat a hat if Balance can save this, because I really don't think there's a way that he can, you know, do anything. Even fancy tricks at this point. Like, I mean, even a couple of abducts, it'd take him like a year to actually get the rest of these units here without losing Vipers to Vikings, without losing to Yamato cannons or anything like that. This is, you know, you just got to be so diligent with that kind of stuff. And now, as we can see, the Vipers looking for another abduct. He can see the Ravens and knows they're floating about, but is not going to be able to grab any. There's no real position there that he can bring them into. But the Broodlords making their way across to the extra command center that has been lifted, and finally this hero Viking that has been covering that Zelnaga watchtower for the last 25 minutes has now come into action and is going to be able to take out these last couple of Broodlords here. Raven does get picked up, get taken out. Looks like it is a yes, and the Hunter Seekers will come out, but they're too slow, not able to catch up with all of those corruptors there. And for the moment, Balance will stay alive. I think for Balance, just dropping off a swarm host at one of the bases, one at each of these bases, would be very cool for him. But I don't know. We'll see. I don't know, guys. This is the point where this kind of matchup, it will end in a flurry, no doubt. It'll either be a lot of Hunter Seeker missiles that just destroy this entire Corruptor army, or it'll be, I don't know, somehow Yamato cannons onto half of these buildings to slowly destroy everything that the Zerg has. But I mean, Balanced is pretty much done at this point. He'll be questioning the balance of the next style here that was used by the Walrus. We get a Hunter Seeker popping out, not going to catch up with that Corruptor. A couple more point defense drones are here to help out as well. He's going to clean out some of the creep as well, just to make sure that he can get that his opponent doesn't have a huge amount of vision. But out come the Vipers again. One abduct, 2 abducts. Nope, not enough energy, I think. Oh, actually, he keeps energy. He's looking for it. He's looking for it. There it is. Grabs a battle cruiser, grabs a Viking, but the Vikings are now landed on the ground. Can't really do much against that, unfortunately, and in fact, as we can see, Vikings are going to go to work on the spore crawlers. They are slowly taking them out. This is like the craziest sort of revenge here for the Vikings, but now it looks as if Balance will send in a couple of these swarm hosts. The Locust should be able to clean up the rest of the Vikings. Really, you want to lose the Vikings at this point? I mean, if you can keep them alive, that's actually awesome, but I mean, I'd rather just trade them, send them straight into the spore crawlers here. But we will have the Corruptors coming across. Where are the Hunter Seekers here? He gets a couple, they're on the way. 2 will be out, and they do hit. Separations from Balance there. He actually attempted to split a little bit, but unfortunately was not able to get them out of the way in time. So a lot of the Corruptors have been damaged. They don't have the same sort of speedy regen that Units have, but they will be able to come across. Will they be able to dodge the point defense drone shots here? Looks like the answer is no. Point defense drone just amazingly useful at this point of the game. How crazy useful was that? Just to be able to protect the 3 battle cruisers that he has left. And, I mean, you've got to start tapping out at this point, I think, as Balance is going to look for some more shots here. He will perhaps get a couple out, but the Vikings are doing huge amounts of damage to those Corruptors. And the point defense drone's still alive. Some of them still have energy over here on the left side. Another Corruptor goes down. We're down to 25. We get another shot off. looks like... Oh, there is one very red Corruptor here. 1 health left over for that guy. And now the Viper is gone. The last Viper has now been killed off. And at this point, I would not even be surprised if Walrus just decided to point defense drone, channel his way through this. You just sort of kind of just set them up in this zone here and then just push out to kill everything, and that's pretty much it. But Walrus is going to bide his time for now. He's happy to wait. Hope you guys have been enjoying this cast. I mean, I know it has been a very long one and a very, at times, a little bit of a slower paced game, but it's sort of showcasing how strong this kind of turtle mech play can be, where you get up to the Raven Viking BC and it just becomes this deadly sort of force. And I mean, for the Zerg players, like, you're probably looking at this and just thinking this is ridiculous, but as I kind of pointed out a couple of times, there is a particular kind of mixture that you really should be going for to try and diffuse this sort of situation. You want to be able to stop the Terran before he's able to get up to all of these Ravens here, because if they get to all of these Ravens and they get to the battle cruisers and the Vikings, this is what happens. You slowly die. So hopefully a few lessons have been learned from the Terran and Zerg players watching this game. Of course, perhaps something interesting could be learned for the Zerg players about utilizing energy units like the fungal growth on infestors, and then of course their Vipers can be hugely handy as well. But Balanced, I mean, he's just sort of dancing around at this point. I'm sure he knows this is over. He's going to try and move forward a couple of these the spore crawlers that are here, but I mean, it's not going to keep him out. He's going to soak up some Hunter Seekers. Sorry, the point of defense group. Out goes a Yamato. 1 less fall. Lasers are firing. Now the battle begins. No, just sort of sitting back. The Vikings just waiting for their time to shine, and there they go, taking out another Corruptor. We're down to 18. The Vikings are slowly destroying everything here. The battle cruisers actually have a little bit of a range issue compared to the Vikings here, but as the point defense drones drop off, Walrus needs to be a little bit careful. May need to drop a couple more. But as you can see, now down to 17 Corruptors at this point. 3 battle cruisers. We've got the 11 Ravens against the 17 Corruptors. And the battle begins right now. Starting to lose some more of his Corruptors. Loses 3, loses 4, and he's now down to just the 13. And Walrus is going to be thinking that he is home clear and free at this point, with all those Corruptors now going down. The count now down to 12. Down to... no, still at 12. All the while, you know, we've got 2 Terran buildings floating off to the corners of the map. And you might be thinking, why doesn't he send the Corruptors after that? Well, he could have earlier. Like, he may have been able to earlier, like split off like maybe a small group of 5 of the Corruptors or something and try and find those buildings. But at this point, you can't abandon this base. I mean, you can't get across here to kill off this command center quick enough. You can't get over here to kill this one quick enough. And I mean, now that the energy is worn off on some of these Ravens, he's going to back off for now. Walrus is just going to wait a minute and say, just hold on, take 5, give me a second to recoup some energy. And Balance is just sort of walking around right now thinking, damn, this game is pretty hard at this point. And in fact, there you go. He thinks it's a bit broken. And he taps out. So, Balanced in a 1 hour and 28 minute game. I believe it's around about 1 hour in real time. Has fallen down to the Mech Terran play of the Walrus here in what was a very bit of a tedious match, but eventually we got there. And of course, as I said, hopefully you guys learned something from some of the various little ideas and theories about this kind of situation in this matchup. Please post your own thoughts down there in the comments. I know it is a little bit annoying now with Google+, but hey, give it a shot, see if you can help out. Please also do share the video and post on Twitter and Facebook and whatever, and all those cool things. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you later. Here. As you can see, 47 damage to bio units and then the 34 damage against other standard targets. His storms have also been wonderful, just spreading them out across the battlefield, doing really nicely there. And for Minigun, he's been sticking with a much more